So this happened.
I wanted our film is more realistic than even Close Encounters, or even more realistic than E.T. in the sense that it's about something that may actually be happening right now as we sit here and talk. And I wanted the I want to call them non-humans, the non-human entities. I don't like saying alien. I wanted them to look like what people have reported.
Then Steven Spielberg, in that same interview, goes on to clarify that he believes it is not science fiction. And later on, he speaks a little bit about the eyes.
People see the film, they'll see how important the eyes are. They'll see how important the eyes are, the windows to the soul, but they're also what makes connections between people, both on this planet and also entities from beyond.
That I find interesting because I did point that out in an earlier video, what connections I thought I saw in the eye reflections within the marketing of this movie. Let's take a quick look. Take a quick look at the marketing from the film, not the trailer, specifically just the images that we've been seeing right here, here, and here. You guys can take a quick look. Did you guys see anything? Take a closer look. It had nothing to do with this, did it? Perhaps it did. Just pay attention, please. Completely stupid for me not to focus specifically on the eye across all of these. Why? Because it is consistent on every single one of the images. That being said, it is now. You see, originally the very first piece of marketing happened to be brown. It was a brown eye that switched to blue later on in the marketing. So that tells me that the blue eye specifically has to represent something within this meaning. Check this out.
In conspiracy theories, the single eye, also known as the all-seeing eye, represents elite surveillance and a secret, watchful power. It's seen as a symbol of control, often linked to the Illuminati and a New World Order, although it historically represented God's protection. In Illuminati conspiracy theories, blue represents elite power, high-level thinking, and sometimes calculated control. It differs from other colors by emphasizing intellect over emotion.
That's fantastic, but let's break that eye logo down one more time, because you see there's a symbol that all of us in the conspiracy world have seen, and it sits at the top of the pyramid that's on the dollar bill. But interestingly enough, when we correlate that back to the Egyptians, we're going to run across the Eye of Hours as well as the Eye of Ra. Now here's the thing, it's specific to each eye, right? So which eye is correlated in these photos on the marketing? Wow. All of them were located on the right eye. That must lead us to believe that we're looking at the Eye of Ra. Let's dive there. The Eye of Ra is essentially a symbol of the sun and or light at its highest point in the sky, representing its strength. Now this is interesting here, looking at the image now over the top of the pyramid, it is also at its highest point in the sky. Could that be specifically representative of Ra? Let's continue. The Eye of Ra also symbolizes both protection, destruction, serving as means of safeguarding against threats and evil. Now we also have Sekhmet, the lion goddess, which is linked with the destructive aspect of Ra's daughter in the mythology. Interestingly enough, Sekhmet is a very interesting character in the mythology of the Egyptians because she's seen as multiple deities. Hi, me again. You're going to want to remember what I just said. Sekhmet was seen as multiple deities. We'll continue. There was one other eye that was shown in the beginning of the film. This image right here. Now this is essentially looking what could be the sport model described by Bob Lazar. And the reason I took it out of this context was because it didn't show the right or left side of the eyeball when we were looking for the Ra or Eye of Hours. That is until you look closer. See? There's an image in there. And what does that image represent? Well, it looks to me like a buck moon.
The buck moon, which is the full moon in July, comes from Native American Algonquin traditions. It marks when male deer start growing their new antlers, symbolizing rapid growth, strength, and nature's yearly renewal.
Hi. So keep in mind that that last image that you just seen actually was the poster that Steven Spielberg himself designed specifically for this movie. One of the interesting things is if he specifically designed it with the buck moon in mind, the interesting thing is the buck moon actually represents growth and change that we go through. Keep that in mind. Let's continue. We'll skim over this one quickly, but the left eye is connected to the Eye of Hours, which is symbolization of God, as well as regeneration. And we're taking a look further down there. It's also connected to Osiris. Interesting, right? Regeneration, buck moon, deers growing their antlers back. That being said, we also want to look at the symbolization between the male and female entities. Perhaps male over here, talking specifically with the buck moon, as well as connecting them to Osiris, where the spiritual meaning of the symbol of the robin is actually renewal as well as rebirth, and the birds returning in the spring symbolizes hope, fresh starts, and a new transition to a new phase in life. Interesting. No, we are not yet done. There's one last thing that I need to talk about, and that is going back to the very, very first image, specifically that came out of this movie. If you guys remember the upside down eyeball, the bird, as well as the rays, this image right here. Yep. Well, there's one more correlation, and we're going to go with it right here from an old video of mine that was posted over 2 months ago. Check this out. So when you take that and you flip it upside down, we're going to have her sitting right side up. And what is she doing? Apparently staring up at something. Others have speculated it's a UFO. Me personally, the stars. I'm getting this interesting feeling that she's staring at Pleiades, which is an interesting star cluster that's located inside of Taurus the Bull. And if you note here, you can see how closely it matches.
Look into what indigenous nations say about the Pleiades. The message is remarkably consistent. They aren't just looking at stars. They are looking at relatives and origins. The Lakota people are very explicit about their origins. They came from the Pleiades.
Notice that the bear was climbing the Devil's Tower with the 7 sisters above it. The interesting thing is that's the Lakota people's story. That's how it is. That's what the Devil's Tower represents. Now, it's not the first time I've ever seen that, because you see in Steven Spielberg's movie, The Close Encounters, we also touch base on the Devil's Tower. As you can see here, we have a man and woman who are both obsessed with the Devil's Tower and have been spending months and years creating art projects to represent something that they didn't even know existed. Pleiades happens to be mostly known in the Greek mythology, but all throughout the world as the 7 sisters, who essentially are goddesses. And that very well could relate back to the spiritual aspect of this video. Now, wildly enough, if we kept that aspect in mind and walked forward, Steven Spielberg did indeed create Men in Black, and in that movie there was a cat. If you guys remember, the cat's name was Orion, and the galaxy was on Orion's belt. Interestingly enough, it does seem to oddly correlate back to this specific story and star cluster. I'm not saying it is, but what if it is?
On the ground, I saw what appeared to be a translucent cow. A bull ran over me. I could see stars inside of it.
That was Chris Bledsoe. And a lot of you guys think Chris Bledsoe's crazy, which, fair point. But me, personally, I think the man is deep. Like, poetry deep. You see, he claims of a night of when he met this woman, this lady, this entity. And this entity claims to be many different entities, such as Hathor or Mother Mary and many other beautiful entity names. Do you remember earlier when I said segment could be many different entities? Names. Now, the interesting thing is he said before he met her, he fell on his back and a bull ran over the top of him and he seen stars inside of it. Could he have actually hit his head hard enough to see that? Or was he tripping? Or, my thought, he looked up at the night sky and seen the star cluster Taurus. Because, you know, what's interesting is inside of the star cluster Taurus is also connected to the Pleiades star system. And that would take us back over to the Devil's Tower that we seen earlier by the Lakota people, where we see 7 sisters on top of the Devil's Tower and the bear on the bottom. Wait, wouldn't that align properly with the night sky? And we would know that the bear would be Ursa Major? Huh. That's interesting. And then if we look deeper, we'd also remember that Chris Bledsoe spoke specifically about a star called the Star of Regulus, which is located in Leo. Wait, that's another star cluster. And then, wait, didn't Steven Spielberg specifically speak to us about another star cluster? Wasn't it Orion? Because it was located on the cat's belt, Orion's belt, which was located in Men in Black? I'm just saying. I still am just saying. Pay attention. Sorry for the long video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, smash that like button, comment, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you guys very soon.